Ever craved a delicious cookie that turns into a business success story? Welcome back to the Well-Seasoned Librarian, your bite-sized dose of culinary inspiration. This is Season 13, Episode 17. I'm your host, Dean Jones. Today we're thrilled to chat with the mastermind behind the mouth-watering phenomenon Cookie Company, entrepreneur extraordinaire Elise Thomas. From whipping up magic in her kitchen, Elise has baked a recipe for success with Cookie Co., a gourmet cookie franchise built on high-quality ingredients and lip-smacking flavors. Join us as we delve into Elise's incredible journey from home baker to managing a national franchise, all while keeping a family running smoothly. Get ready for a conversation packed with inspiration, delicious secrets, and an invaluable lesson for aspiring food entrepreneurs. Welcome to the Well-Seasoned Librarian podcast. I'm your host, Dean Jones. Today, I'm very happy and excited to have Elise Thomas on here today, the cookie lady. Elise, thanks for being on the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Now, Elise, can you talk a little bit about where you're from and where you live now?
Yeah, so I grew up in Redlands, California. It's southern down towards like Palm Springs, in between Palm Springs and LA, and I currently live there, and that's where I started my first cookie shop.
Oh, nice. And did now this sounds like a dumb question, but I think everybody has a different answer to it. So, did you always love cooking and baking? Did you do it when you were young, when you were a kid?
Yeah, I've always had a passion for baking. My mom was always in the kitchen baking. She was a school teacher. And when she would come home from work to kind of like unwind, she'd always bake fresh baked cookies. And my friends would come over and have them. And it's always just been something that I've enjoyed. I mean, I love eating. So, I also love creating. And I just like being in the kitchen. It's therapeutic for me.
Now, you started baking cookies in your garage during the pandemic. What inspired you to turn your hobby into a full-blown business?
So before the pandemic, I was had three young kids, and I had finally decided that now was the time for me to open up a bakery. I had talked to my husband. I had been wanting to do this for a long time. It was a long time in the making that I just really wanted to open up a bakery and you know, follow my passion of baking. So before, obviously, we knew about the pandemic. In 2019, we had found a perfect location in my hometown, Redlands, and we started turning this commercial building into a bakery, which is a process which we learned because we were first-time business owners. So we didn't know what we were doing.
Yeah.
And so after we signed our lease and we got going, and it took a lot longer than we thought it was going to take. It just takes a long time going through all the ropes of the city and the county and the health department, all those things for opening up anything food related just takes a long time. So in January, February time when they started doing the lockdowns in California, especially, we were hit pretty hard with lockdowns. My kids were sent home, and I had to do homeschool like during the day. And since I had this bakery that I was planning on opening this cookie shop, I just, because we were all home lockdown, I just started doing it from home and selling them out of my house, just put it on Instagram. I was like, I'm just going to see if anyone wants them. I wasn't sure how it was going to go. And I had just made like an Instagram for for Cookie Co. to kind of just have it like coming soon, and had a picture of me in front of the building, and just for like a little advertising. And slowly the word got out, and I was baking sometimes until 4 a.m. in the morning.
Holy
I would
Moses.
teach my kids during the day, and then I would bake as soon as we were done doing the online learning. And I would bake until like 4 o'clock because I started just getting more and more orders
Oh my
throughout the week.
God.
So it just became like this thing where people would get their cookie fix, and I would just put their name on it, and I would put them outside my garage on a table with their name, and they would come. And so it was like COVID friendly. They could come get their box and then go in their car. And it kind of, people started driving like all over, like an hour or two over to get this kind of comfort food while everyone was stuck at home. So that kind of started. It wasn't planned to start a business during the pandemic. It just kind of happened. And because of that, we were able to gain like a really loyal following. And that's kind of where my name, the Cookie Lady, came from, is these people would start saying, okay, I'm getting my cookie fix. And they would start calling me the Cookie Lady. I don't even know how, but it just kind of stuck. And then I just went with it. I'm like, I've been called worse. Cookie Lady, that's great, you know? So it's kind of fun. So that's kind of how it started. And then during that time, my husband, he had wanted right before that to kind of do this startup business with some friends as a marketing company. And because of COVID, it kind of fell through. And so then he was out of job. So I was really grateful because we had put like all of our money into opening up this bakery that we were able to sell from home because we didn't have any income at that time.
Yeah.
So it was really a blessing and that I was able to sell from my garage and then start getting kind of a following of our cookie shop from that, people that had already, tasted our cookies, liked them, and then they all were big supporters when we opened up our first shop in August of 2020.
Yeah, not all businesses have that kind of and having people drive that far to come get yours. That must have been pretty amazing for you and humbling. How did it make you feel?
It was very humbling. I was always surprised. Like, they'd be like, I drove from Long Beach, or I drove 2 hours away,
Wow.
or like my friends switch off. Like we all drive, I go this week and then they go the next week. And it definitely made me feel really good. It also made me think, okay, maybe I'm not going to go bankrupt. Because I mean, like, you never know when you open up a business, like
Right,
how this is
exactly.
what's going to happen. So I had told my husband, okay, like, people do like my products because I think my cookies are delicious, but I mean, you could open up this bakery and some people might not like them as much as you think they're good. So
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, I think we do have something that we need here. There is a market for this. So I was super excited that people loved my cookies as much as I did.
Yeah, because I took business and like for me, like if you were like, and if you were looking for an angel investor and you told me people are coming, 1 to 2 hours to get cookies, I'd be like, okay, I'm investing. Because
Yeah.
you're like, that's a done deal, at that point, that's, you got a fan base. How did you develop your signature cookie recipe? Was there anything you had to think about or consider?
Yeah, so I love a chewy soft cookie. Like,
Hmm.
that's how I like. And I after I had my first daughter, I have 4 kids. So when I had my daughter, when I was pregnant with her and my husband was still in college, I had graduated, I started kind of perfecting the chocolate chip cookie just because I craved them when I was pregnant. So like every day I would try a new recipe and then I would just kind of keep trying new ones and keep adapting them and being like, okay, I think this would taste better with this. And I would give them away to neighbors and friends and have them try them. So that kind of started my journey. My mom is amazing baker as well. So she has always baked. So she has some like signature cookie recipes that she has always used. And so I, started with those two and kind of adapted them and just continued to make them my own. And until I felt like it was, this is it. This is perfect.
You must have had a heck of a learning curve to go from home baking to running a successful bakery. I mean, you've had a lot of change in your life. What has it been like going from one extreme to the other?
Honestly, at first it was really hard. The first week we opened our shop, I honestly had no idea what it would be like. I mean, at
Mhm.
the end of the week, my husband was like, if someone came and asked us to sell like our bakery, he's like, I would say yes. Because
Yeah.
I kind of wrote my husband in the first day we opened. I was so overwhelmed. I had found out I was pregnant. We had a COVID baby. So I found out I was pregnant with our fourth, and I wasn't feeling very good.
Yeah.
And we were there, and we had a line around the corner when we opened.
Oh
And
my
so
God.
I was like stressed. I was not expecting to have so much support. In my mind, when I had first started this, I thought this is just going to be like a little hometown bakery where I'll have a few customers in and out throughout the day. I'll be doing all the baking. I'll be, running the register, doing it all. I didn't think that we were going to need a lot of employees or anything streamlined. Like I brought my recipes on a tiny piece of paper and I'm like, what in the world? Like this line around the corner. So I was extremely stressed and overwhelmed with all the support. And so after the first week where we were just like run ragged because we were so busy, my husband, well, I turned to him and I'm like, you're full-time cookie co now, like you work for me. And then I'm like, okay, we have to figure out how to do this better. Like we have to streamline it. So that's when we kind of started doing a lot of prep work where we would prepare um, bases, like all the brown sugar, baking soda, all that. We would put them in
Yeah.
bags and we would call them like a base. And then we've kind of used that technique into when we started franchising. We have proprietary bases that get shipped to our franchisees so they don't know all the ingredients.
Hmm.
And then it also just helps streamline everything so that every cookie tastes the same everywhere you go. So we had to really, luckily my husband, he's a marketing and business background.
Oh, nice.
So he was able to really help me. It was a blessing in disguise that he lost his job because then he was able to jump on board and help me. I'm more the visionary, the creative, the baking side, and then the bills person. He doesn't like doing bills, but
Yeah.
I I do that, and then he kind of helps with the others. So we definitely had to like buckle down and figure out how we could do this easier and more productive because it was a huge change. And I was just like bawling after the first week in the warehouse. I'm like, I do not know if we can do this, but here we are, 3.5 years later. So we're doing it.
Wow. You guys had kind of the perfect, I mean, I imagine while it was stressful, you guys had the both between you and your husband, you have like the perfect combination for starting a business. And I mean, I know it sounds stressful, but God, you guys kind of had like the perfect situation there. That sounds really wonderful. I want to talk about your new cookbook that's going to be coming out in April. It's Elise's Home Kitchen, Eat Dessert First. And it's really, I think, an amazing cookbook. And it surprised me. I didn't expect some of the things that were in it. And I want to talk about that more a little bit. So I want to ask you first, your cookbook goes beyond cookies. What made you decide to include family-friendly meals alongside your desserts?
So this for me, I kind of wanted to show people because I love to cook. I love to bake. For one, I wanted to show people that I can do more than just cookies.
Yeah,
And these are like home family recipes that I've used for years and adapted for just a fast-paced mom. I
yeah,
work many hours a week, and these are recipes that I use on a daily basis that are delicious. They're home cooked and they're easy. They're not difficult. So the everyday mom can use them. So I felt like it would be such a great thing to bring to people so that they can also make their family a home cooked meal and know that they don't have to do like 50 different steps and that it
yeah.
can still be delicious.
No, I want to also you categorize the recipes by cravings. Can you talk about the thought process that led to this unique approach?
Yeah, so I obviously it's called eat dessert first because like
Hmm.
I'm a true believer. I'm an adult, so I'm gonna eat whatever I want to eat when I want to eat it.
Yeah,
So I'm like, if I want a cookie for lunch, that's what I'm gonna have. And most days,
yeah,
honestly, if I'm busy, that is what I have for lunch is a cookie. But so that's kind of why I wanted to put desserts at the front of the cookbook. And I'm a sweets person. I crave sweets all the time. And then we kind of have like sweets and savories and brunches and appetizers. And I love salty and I love sweet. So we kind of just wanted to do it that way just to make it fun and kind of a little bit different than your average cookbook.
Now, the book focuses on using pantry staples. What are some tips you have for listeners who are building a well-stocked pantry?
Yeah, I would say I think if you have the basics, you can kind of do a little bit of everything like flour, sugar, butter. Butter is a basic for me. And then it's not
Yeah,
pantry, it's fridge. But like I always have a well-stocked amount of butter and eggs.
yeah,
Having like sorts of noodles, sauces, red sauce, and then like just having your basic meats. You can really do a lot with just those different types of food. And even me, like sometimes, and I think I get it from my mom. My mom was a very ingredients, we had a like grew up in a very ingredients based household, I guess you could say.
yeah,
I've heard that a lot lately, and I'm like, yeah, that was definitely us. She did her shopping once a month, and it was mostly ingredient based. And so we didn't have a lot of snacks growing
yeah.
up. She made almost everything. And I kind of do the same thing. And my kids will be like, we have no food. And I'm like, no, we got plenty. I'll see what we have. If I have some basics, I'll whip something up really fast. So you can just like, you can really do a lot with just, those basic things, rice, noodles, chicken, sauce. And if you have spices, you're good to go. You can feed your family of six or whatever you have on a very affordable budget.
You mentioned in the book kid-friendly recipes, and how much input did your family have into the cookbook? And did you do a lot of the testing of some of the recipes on them?
Yes. So my kids were so into it. They loved it, especially when we took photos of everything because I was making, 134 recipes, some multiple times to make sure that they looked perfect for photos. So they loved that part.
I
But
imagine.
I included I included our just my kids' favorite recipes that I make all the time. Like one of my sons, well, actually all my kids, but one in particular loves the coffee cake muffins. And I
Mm,
just made them on Sunday. I made them Saturday night so we could have them Sunday morning before church. On the tabs in the cookbook, there are little things that say like how long the recipe takes and if it's kid approved, which I think is really great when moms or dads are looking through the cookbook and can be like, okay, this is kid friendly, kid approved. My child is going to like this. It makes it easier for them to decide what to make for dinner.
nice. I want to ask you, what are some essential baking tools or shortcuts you recommend for home cooks?
Some essential baking tools. I mean, I think that everyone should have basic pots and pans,
Yeah.
obviously skillet, and I think making sure that your oven cooks properly is always great,
Oh,
and
yeah.
that you preheat your oven and wait to put something in. Following
Yeah.
directions is key to making
Yeah.
your recipe well.
Hmm.
Making sure that you follow all the steps, like letting your bread rise, like don't get, anxious. Also, I would say I always tell people the number one tip when baking cookies, like people will call me and they'll be like, why is my chocolate chip cookie going flat? Or, I'm like, why can't I get puffy? A lot of things is like I use cold butter
Yeah.
when I make cookies. I don't melt it, which some people do.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is a lot of people they overmix.
Mm,
So they'll mix their butter and the sugar and their eggs and they'll just let it keep going and going and going and going. And you really don't need to do that. As soon as
yeah.
it is all mixed in, you're good. You are good to go. You don't need to overmix. No leaving your mixer, just going and going and going to do laundry and coming back. You're just going to have really flat cookies.
Mm.
So that's just kind of like one of my tips that I always tell people when they say, why can't I get these fluffy cookies?
That's a good tip. I think I would have missed out on that one, so I'm glad you were able to say that. Some people get intimidated by baking. Do you ever talk to people who are afraid to kind of start? They want to take the cookbook and utilize it, but they're just like intimidated by the process. Do you have any advice for anybody to get more competent in the kitchen?
I think it's just like everyone always says, practice. I mean, I feel like if I can do it, then anyone can. That's what I always say to people. Like,
Yeah.
there's nothing like extra special about me that versus anyone else. Like, these are, I put in very easy, you know, baking recipes, cooking recipes. But I mean, even I get frustrated sometimes that I'm a perfectionist for sure. So I definitely get frustrated sometimes if it doesn't come out how I wanted it to. That's why it took me forever to do all the photos for my recipe book because I'm such a perfectionist. So I would say just don't give up. Just keep trying and just keep doing the recipe over and over. And just if you follow it step by step, a lot of the time when like when I made my recipe book or like for our bakery, we have recipe cards. When we were creating them, I took like a new employee and I would give them the card and I'd be like, okay, I want you to follow this step by step. I'm not going to help you. So
Hmm.
I can see how well this is written and like if there's anything I need to add or, take away. And I kind of just like observe to see what they're doing. And if it turns out perfect, I'm like, all right, we're good. This person that is 17 can make this on, an industrial mixer. Like we're good. We can do this. So
That's brilliant. I really like that. I think that's a really good idea. Do you have any hopes for Cookie Co. brand in the future?
yeah, so right now we started franchising about a year and a half, 2 years ago. We were
Mhm.
approached by a lot of people, which is great. We started franchising. We have over 26 franchises. And then right now, our hope is to go international. We just started looking into Canada and made a company LLC there. So that's
Wow.
exciting. We're going into Canada and hopefully we'll get into our next, big thing would be maybe Mexico or things like that. So we really want to go international. That is like our next goal for Cookie Co.
Okay, this is the big question, Elise. I'm going to ask you the big question. Which of your cookies is your favorite?
Okay. I know that's so hard, right? So I love chocolate chip is always my top, is going to be a top for me, but I'm a peanut butter person. So
Yeah,
anything peanut butter is my jam. I don't have self-control. I'll try, but I can't. I
that's
always end up
understandable.
breaking down.
Nice. Elise, it was really wonderful talking to you, and I don't really have to wish you success because you're going to have it with Elise's Home Kitchen. Eat dessert first. We're going to have links to pre-purchase that in the bio, so you can go and order that on Amazon now, and I think it might be available in some locations. So, Elise, all the luck to your new book and your franchise going to Canada. I hope you end up going global. That just sounds really wonderful. The world needs more cookies, I think.
Yes, they do. I think so too. They bring happiness.
I think so. Yeah, you can't go wrong. Elise,
No.
thank you for being on the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
Wow, that was a delicious conversation with Elise Thomas. I especially loved hearing about Elise's can do spirit and sense of teamwork that led to ultimate success. We also learned Elise's secret tip for a perfect chocolate chip cookie. If you're craving more inspiration or have a sweet tooth for entrepreneurial advice, be sure to check out links to Elise's website and social media content in the show notes. You can also pre purchase her book that's coming out in April as well. Until next time, I'll see you at the library.